Do you breathe purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in, Hoist the Colors on this Wednesday, October 23rd edition of the show. As always, we're live, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Got a question, comment, and concern, drop it there. We got the coaching search going on, hoistthecolors.net. Obviously, we'll talk about it here. So if you got any questions there, let us know. And if you got any candidates to throw out, do that. We'll do our best to vet them and discuss them, as this is going to be as we've said all along, I think a lengthy coaching search, full and thorough coaching search. Philip Hilkinen producing today. We're also going to have Brady Thomas, Hoist the Colors intern, later on in the program. He's going to make his radio debut. You've read his articles on Hoist the Colors. If you follow us online, he'll join us. We'll introduce him, get his take on what's happening at ECU. He's a student at East Carolina. We're also going to talk to Kevin Monroe around 12:15, ECU color analyst on the ECU Sports Network. He'll be on the call. East Carolina and Temple this weekend. 2 o'clock, great start time. Should be good weather Saturday inside Dowdy Ficklin Stadium. So it's been a week, obviously, from the media side. We talked to John David Baker, ECU offensive coordinator, earlier today, just before this show. We talked with Blake Carroll for the first time as a collective media on Tuesday. And let's share some thoughts there. Also we've got a Mike Houston statement as he kind of bids farewell to Pirate Nation, a very classy statement. I'll read that here in a minute as well. Philip Pilkington, man, a changing of the guard mid-season is always a weird feeling. I do have to say, though, and I guess it's kind of typical for there to be some positive energy, as weird as that sounds, after a change. But you often hear about teams that rally around the interim coach. I feel like Blake Carroll has handled this as well as possible, and honestly thought John David Baker, too, at the podium today was very good as well. So what's your take on the last 2 days talking to those guys?
Yeah, they both seem to be, I think they're disappointed in the way it happened, and because, look, Mike Houston meant a lot to them, and they have come out and said that. They haven't, Blake Carroll's not out there going, hey, look at me, I got a promotion. He's very much, appreciative of everything, but appreciative of Coach Houston for bringing him in, and it shows you the kind of man that Blake Carroll is. And then on top of it, JDB went out of his way to thank Mike Houston for bringing him in, and that he would not be where he is today without Mike Houston. So they've handled it with the utmost professionalism, but they've also said, look, JDB, another thing that he mentioned was he took some of the ownership for, Mike Houston being dismissed. As he said, it's on all the coaches. It's on all the players. We have not performed up to, the standard that was set. So I thought that was very mature of him. And, look, they realized that, Coach Houston did a lot of good things, but also obviously you're 3-4, and whether Coach Houston is still here or not, there are some things that got to change if you want to achieve the goal of a bowl game and get these seniors especially into a bowl. And both of these men realize that, and they're going to do everything in their power they can. And let's just hope the players do rally around them, because it seems like when these kind of things happen, the season turns into either a free fall or it drastically changes for the better. So we'll see what happens on Saturday, but I think Saturday, the first quarter or so, will tell a lot.
No doubt. I think you got to have some positivity. And then you get a bye week for a Thursday night game. And if you could somehow win, be 4-4, going to a Thursday night game, coming off a bye, I mean, that sets up pretty well for this staff. And, I was curious. We'll start more specifically with the John David Baker presser. And I know you gave some thoughts on it, but I was curious, all right, is this going to be a press conference where we just kind of talk offense, or is he going to open up to some of the big picture stuff? Because John David Baker took a risk. Mike Houston was coming off a 2-10 season. He took a pay cut. Now he did get a 2-year deal as a coordinator to come to East Carolina. So he's got some financial security in the short term. So that played a big role in it as well. But he still took a risk, a career risk, by going from Ole Miss passing game coordinator or co-offensive coordinator, to the ECU offensive coordinator. And, the offense to this point I would say it's kind of been a disappointment. I mean, I don't think you can put it any other way. I think they've shown flashes, but still have not really settled on finding the guy at quarterback. We'll see what happens with Caden Hauser. But, I mean, he's still auditioning for maybe the next coach at ECU or the next offseason. Obviously, he's got a chance to audition for another offensive coordinator job. Let's say they finish the season with 5 explosive offensive performances. That puts him in a much better light. So he's got a reason to coach, but I just thought he was a little more open and free in his answers, starting with his opening statement, which he said, I'm not an opening statement guy, but taking some ownership of what happened here, I think, shows a lot. And, look, we know Blake Harrell is an aggressive defensive coach. We'll see how he handles it as a head coach, but I would think, and I kind of asked the question, like, there's no pressure on ECU right now. I mean, there's absolutely no pressure. If they go out and lose, whatever, they got an interim coach, people just kind of blame it on that. Or if they go out and win, then I think that creates an entirely different narrative. So, I don't know. I just felt like even JDB at the podium felt a little more free, Phillip, and maybe we see that play out on Saturday with the entire team.
Yeah, I think so. The only pressure that they have right now, and John David Baker alluded to this, and then after you asked Blake Harrell about the seniors yesterday, he kind of alluded to this, is their duty to the upperclassmen, that this is their last chance for these seniors to play in a bowl game. He said that he was in an offensive meeting, and he said, all right, guys, raise your hand if you ever played in a bowl game. He said only about 6 or 8 hands went up. So there's the pressure from that, but overall, like you said, there's not much. The expectations, there are none. It's not saying that they're bad. They're just inexistent. So with that being said, yeah, you can play a little more free-flowing. If you're Blake Harrell and you go out there and you light the world on fire and you get offered this head coaching job after the season, that's a bonus. But it's not like he's been named the head coach and then they're talking about firing him at the end of the year. No, John Gilbert was very clear. He is the interim head coach. That's what he is. He's just an interim. So I think there's not much pressure on Blake Harrell. Look, obviously, if you're Blake, you want to win out and get to stay here because you have a wife and 3 kids, and he doesn't want to uproot his family. But at the end of the day, I think he can't think about that right now. It's just go out there one game at a time and take it, and just good Lord willing what happens after the season. But yeah, when you're Blake Harrell, what is the pressure? Because he's going to find another job. If they don't bring him in as the head coach, look, Blake Harrell will find another job. John David Baker will find another job. So obviously it's not easy to move, but at the end of the day, like you said, there's not much pressure right now. Just go out there and perform.
Kenny Curlins on Facebook says if we can make it to 6-6, go to a bowl game, that's a win at this point. I mean, definitely. I think if you make a bowl game under any scenario, it is a major win. And the reality of the situation is, too, each win, if ECU is fortunate enough to get one, if ECU beats Temple, there's a little more talk about, all right, if Blake keeps winning, does he get a little look at, the head job? Then if you go beat FAU on a Thursday night, and then if you go beat Tulsa, that's 3 in a row. You'd be 6-4 at that point, and the buzz would be palpable. But again, they've got to take it one game at a time. You lose to Temple, and the wheels could fall off. So we're going to talk about this stuff in the media. It's what we do. But, I mean, there is a path there to start getting some buzz that way. I just thought Coach Harrell at the podium was a natural. I mean, you can tell, like, in some ways, you can never really prepare for this, but I feel like he just has such a good beat on kind of how everybody's feeling. I mean, I'll just say this. I'm not going to share what he said, but he kind of talked to the media collectively off the record before he took the podium, and I thought that showed kind of a great sense of awareness of when you're stepping into the head coaching role, you got to be able to deal with the media, and you got to be able to deal with the fans and, control the narrative to an extent, and I think he has a good understanding of that. I think his biggest challenge will come on game day, how he handles being a coordinator and a head coach at the same time. But, Philip, from standing at the podium, you can see why he's a player's coach, man. He's, so real and authentic. And I'm not saying Coach Houston wasn't, but a lot of his answers were kind of some, typical things you hear from coaches. Blake Harrell is basically the complete opposite. He just kind of speaks his mind and, doesn't use as many sayings, so to speak. It was just refreshing. And after 6 years of hearing somebody talk, doesn't matter who it is, people are going to want to hear a different vision, different voice. So I think you have that aspect too. But I thought he was really good at the podium yesterday.
Excuse me. My favorite part about it is Blake was Blake, right?
Yep.
I talked to Blake Monday night very briefly. There were so many people around, I wasn't going to bother him at tiebreakers. And then he comes out there yesterday, and Blake Harrell, the defensive coordinator, and Blake Harrell, the head coach, appear to be the same person. And, you know, when you look at an interim head coach, do you want somebody that knows football? Sure. Do you want somebody who's been a good coordinator? Sure. But at the end of the day, especially at the collegiate level where there are seniors, where these are the last 5 games or 6 games of their life, you want a guy who the players will rally behind and view as a leader, as a father figure, and someone that feels that it genuinely cares about each individual young man in that room. And that is the main reason Blake Harrell was selected for this job. Yes, he knows football. Yes, this defense has been successful for the most part in his tenure. But at the end of the day, he's a leader. People listen when he when he speaks, and nothing changed. You would have not known that was a head coach press conference if you didn't know, other than the things that we asked him, because his demeanor was the same demeanor as Blake Harrell, the defensive coordinator, and the same demeanor as Blake Harrell, the man that you talk to if you run into him in a grocery store. If anybody has ever met Blake Harrell, that's Blake Harrell as a coach. And yes, I've never played for him, but I've had a lot of friends who have. Maceo, Joe, Holton. They say, look, that's Blake. Like, there's only one Blake Harrell we know, and that's him.
I thought it was interesting, too, Philip, the Spencer Danielson conversation. I almost didn't ask that question because I didn't want to, pry into his personal business. Like, I'm sure he'd reach out to somebody. I know he's been in contact with Coach Houston a lot, obviously. That's one of his mentors. But, you know, the Boise State situation last year, a little different. It was a little bit later. They fired their coach. Danielson takes over. He wins the final 2 games of the regular season, wins the Mountain West Conference Championship, and then is now the full-time guy and doing a great job there in position to maybe make the college football playoff. He was, I believe, their defensive coordinator. So a lot of interesting parallels there. What did you make of that? And obviously, look, it doesn't mean Blake Harrell is going to win out and get the job, but I just thought pretty interesting he's got that connection.
It is, because, you know, we talk about it in this era of college football, when the minute you fire a coach, you're immediately trying to hire someone new. You really don't want to hire the interim. And that's no disrespect to the interim, but it's because the second that portal opens, you already want to say, hey, this is our head coach, and you don't know how that interim is going to finish out the season. You got to think last year with Boise State, the portal opened prior to the conference championship game. There was a 3-way tie in the Mountain West that came down to some wacky formula that they even made the conference championship game. 2 out of the 3 teams got to make it. I don't remember which team got left out. But Spencer Danielson, the administration put faith in him, and obviously he's doing a great job. They've got 1 loss right now, and it was in Eugene, Oregon. I mean, they looked just as good as Ohio State did in Eugene, Oregon when they played there. So it is an interesting connection, and for Blake's sake, I hope that the same thing happened to Spencer Danielson happens to Blake Harrell. I would love to see Blake Harrell be successful here and be able to continue it. And then we're sitting here on October 23rd, 2025, talking about how the Pirates have only 1 loss. That would be wonderful. And it is interesting that he's got that connection, because Spencer Danielson is one of the few that has actually had this happen. Now, will it play out the same way? Who knows? But just the fact that he's got that connection is interesting, because Danielson is one of the few people it's happened to in this era of the portal, and that portal opening up right there at the end of the season.
All right, a few comments about, do we know if Coach Harrell will let JDB have absolute control over his play calling? Yes, JDB is going to run the offense. Blake Harrell already has enough on his plate. The last thing he's going to do is start calling offensive plays too. I think maybe you'll see a difference in the aggressiveness in certain situations, like before the half, late game. Maybe instead of being a little more conservative there, you might see ECU be aggressive. But JDB has been calling the offense how he wants it the whole time. From my understanding. All right, I want to read this statement from Mike Houston before we take a break. We get Kevin Monroe on. He released a statement 10:51 a.m. this morning. It says, "Thank you, Pirate Nation. The past 5.5 years here in Greenville have been an incredible experience for my family and I. We have had the pleasure of coaching some of the most incredible young men we could ever ask to be around. We have had the opportunity to work with so many amazing coaches, support staff, and administrators. Their families have been extensions of our family. We have been blessed to have the most passionate fans who loved our program and supported us throughout this entire time, and we have been so blessed to have made incredible relationships with so many families and friends in the Greenville and surrounding area. As our time at East Carolina comes to an end, my family and I just want to express our gratitude for the way we have been treated and supported. The last couple of days, we have been overwhelmed by the love we have all been shown and the way everyone has embraced us. We love the players, coaches, and support staff that make up ECU football, and we will be cheering and supporting them every week the remainder of this fall and beyond. We are healthy and blessed and know that God has a path and a plan for our family. Go Pirates, Mike, Amanda, Owen, and Reed Houston. So, we said all along, classy is one of the many words you can use to describe Mike Houston. I talked with him pretty extensively last night just about several things, and I know he's in a good spot right now. Obviously, it's one of those situations. It's tough. He understands, but I think his statement says it all. He's still going to be cheering on the Pirates, obviously not on the sideline. I know he loves ECU, and, this hurt him, but I think going forward, he'll still be a fan of the Pirates for a long time. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We will talk with Kevin Monroe. We'll get his take on Coach Houston's departure and more. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Pirate game days, there's nothing like them. The atmosphere,
First down,
the tradition, the matchups, the magical finishes. Be a part of Pirate Game Days. Season tickets are as low as $115. Reserve your seat today to be a part of the experience of Pirate Game Days at Dowdy Ficklin Stadium this fall.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
The Pirates play here. This is Hoist the Colors Radio with Stephen Igo.
Yes! That was so good!
On 94.3, The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, Wednesday, October 23rd. We just talked with John David Baker, ECU offensive coordinator, and had comments from Blake Harrell yesterday. Both those press conferences can be found on the 94.3 The Game Facebook pages or YouTube pages, as well as Hoist the Colors. All right, live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter right now. If you got a question, comment, or concern, drop it. We'll get to it. We're joined by Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network color analyst. He'll be on the call this weekend, East Carolina and Temple, 2 p.m. inside Dowdy, Fickle, and Stadium. Kevin, we got a lot to get to. First off, welcome back, and we'll just start with your initial reaction to Mike Houston's firing and the big news over the weekend.
Yeah, hey, I go definitely surprised. Not that he was let go. I assumed that probably would happen, but I didn't think till the end of the year. But in this day and age, with NIL money and recruiting and the portal, you kind of want to know ahead of, I guess December, January, whatever, that you're going to need a new coach. So things just weren't going the way that we had expected, the way we had planned. I mean, for everybody that was complaining at the beginning of the season about how easy the schedule was, I wasn't one of them. I was one of the people who was saying that we need this year to get ourselves back to prominence, to show people that we can go out and win the games we should win. And I just assumed this would be one of those years where you win 8 or 9 games and kind of get the program back on its footing. And to be 3-4 right now with 2 straight blowout losses to Charlotte and Army just seems unfathomable. So I think it just got to the point where the administration just got too much pressure put on them, and whether that's from donors or not, just wasn't a good look for the Pirates. And I'm a big fan of Coach Houston, and I know he'll land on his feet, but it probably had to be made.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Kevin. I think 3 years ago, Coach Houston probably gets to the end of the season, but from my understanding, the NIL collective team, Boneyard, just they were not only losing subscribers, but people were probably not going to give money to the collective with the way things were trending. And I know since the move was made, they've had, I want to say, more than 30 new subscribers. They've had a lot of one-time donations. That money needs to continue coming in for the NIL because you need it by December. So I guess if you wait till November to make the move, Kevin, you don't really have much time to fundraise. So it's just crazy how much college football has changed. But I think this is the reality now, man. I mean, the fans can speak with their wallets, obviously, by going to games, but now I think they kind of have control over these situations too.
Yeah, and had they decided to say, let's say, give Coach Houston another year, then he goes into the offseason probably being handcuffed by the fans, by Team Boneyard, because those folks are like, oh, well, we're not giving money for him. And so now he has to coach and can't go get players to make his team better. And so, yeah, you almost feel like you're held captive by the NIL. If you don't have the right coaches in place, you don't have the right players in place, people will pull their support, and you just have to have that support in this day and age.
Risen with Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network color analyst, and I don't know if we could go in several directions here, Kevin. I guess we'll start with just going forward in the immediate future with Blake Harrell as interim coach. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch any of his comments from yesterday, but I thought he did extremely well at the podium. Just how do you think the players will respond and react to Coach Harrell taking over as interim, specifically starting with this weekend?
Well, I didn't see much of the press conference, but I heard a few things, and he's a smart guy, and he's young enough to where he's got the player's ear, and he said, I wanted to change the vibe of things around here, and that right there will tell you he's endearing to the players, that he has their ear, that he's listening, whether it's playing music at practice or changing up practice formations or the way they do things. I think he's doing the right things to keep this team kind of going and moving straight ahead instead of kind of going backwards after losing their coach. So I think that's going to be helpful. It'll be interesting to see if anything changes either offensively or defensively with him at the helm. Obviously, he's the defense coordinator, so you shouldn't see a whole lot change defensively. But one thing I wondered was if this up-tempo offense has put this defense in bad circumstances tons of times, and that's mostly because they either have a turnover or they go 3 and out, and they're on the field for 45 seconds after the defense has gotten a stop. And so you wonder if Coach Harrell just continues to let JDB do his own thing, or if he's saying, okay, every now and then let's huddle up, or every now and then let's slow things down. If you get the first and second down and you get no yards, I need you to take some time on third down to give my defense a chance to breathe a little bit, because that's one of the things I think has kept this defense from performing is being on the field all the time. So the interaction between Coach Harold and John David Baker, I want to see if that's any different than it was with Coach Houston.
No doubt. And Coach Harrell has been in the booth calling plays. Now he's going to go down to the field. I asked him if he's going to have time to review like the iPads in between series defensively. He says he's going to try to look at a couple plays, but I guess that's the biggest. I think Blake will do all the right things and say the right things. I guess my question is, does it impact his coordinating abilities and his adjustment abilities, Kevin? Because he's going to have to be watching the offense. He said he's seen like 0 offensive plays all year. So, I mean, that'll be the biggest change, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And I know, I don't know all the coaches very closely, but I know on the defensive side of the ball, he's got a couple guys that he depends on. And, there'll be a de facto defensive coordinator that can make calls, that can handle things in his absence. If he's yelling at officials or trying to get timeouts or whatever, that'll be over there talking to the defense, that may be on the headsets, talking to people and getting things aligned. So I don't think there'll be any kind of setback there. He just will have to give up a little bit of control defensively so that he can handle the administrative stuff that has to go on the sidelines during the game, because he's going to have to be paying attention to the offense, knowing when to go for a fourth down, knowing when to call timeout, clock management, all that stuff, where he could be planning his next defensive series or talking to certain players on the headsets. He won't be able to do that anymore, so he'll be relying on his coaches to help him with that.
We're visiting with Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network color analyst. He'll be on the call this weekend for the Temple game. And Kevin, let's just take a broad look at the program going forward. Obviously, look, if ECU wins out or has tremendous success down the stretch here, I think Blake Harrell becomes a legitimate candidate. But for right now, the coaching search is going on, and there's a bunch of names out there. From my understanding, it's more agents and people putting their names out there trying to get some buzz, more so than John Gilbert having an actual list. But I expect that to formulate here pretty quickly. What's your take on what ECU needs or what direction they should go as a former player, a guy who's been around the program a lot? Do you have a general, broad sense of where this program should look for a new head coach?
Well, it's hard to say what they need because you just never know what might work for a program. The guy who's up there at Indiana is just, he's won everywhere he's been. He carries that to Indiana, and they're 7-0. That probably came out of nowhere to most people. And so you never know what might be successful. Look at the Steve Logan hire. I mean, the guy from Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, outside of Tulsa, and becomes the offense coordinator at East Carolina and becomes the head coach. That's not a guy you would have thought that would be able to take over a program and be the winningest coach of all time. And so you never kind of know how these things work. But in my mind, what I would want, rather than say what they need, what I would want is for them to have somebody with ties to East Carolina, whether that be a former player, a former coach, somebody that knows what Greenville, North Carolina is about, knows what the fan base is about, knows what it's like to be at a football-first university, and knows how much this program means to the city of Greenville and into Eastern North Carolina, and is wanting to build this program back up. Now, I'm not saying you have to come and be here 10 years. I get it. You want to work your way up the ladder, and if it's not meant for you to stay at East Carolina for a long time and you want to go to the next step, that's fine. But leave this program in a better situation than you found it, and be passionate about building it back up. So I know, I played with two guys in the 90s that are now coaches in the NFL, and Dwayne Ledford and Terrell Williams, and I know both of those guys would do great jobs. I've heard the name Dwayne Ledford thrown around a bunch. We came in the same time. We were true freshmen together. He didn't redshirt. I did, so he ended up leaving a year earlier than I did. But just a good dude, salt of the earth kind of guy, and has been a great coach since he's come out. So that kind of guy that bleeds purple, would do whatever it took to get the program back on its feet, would be the kind of guy I would be leaning towards. I hear the names of like the Joe Sloans and the Garrett Rileys and these big time coordinators. I'll remind you, Scotty Montgomery was a big time, highly touted coordinator. Like being a good coordinator doesn't necessarily always transcend into being a good college coach, good head coach. I love Coach Montgomery. We're friends. I think he just was a head coach too early, and that could be the same said for those other two guys. So you just never know how that pans out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So we just have to be careful. Just because a guy's a highfalutin coordinator somewhere doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a good head coach. So I think we just take our time, make sure that we ask all the right questions, and bring in the guy that's going to be passionate about the university.
No doubt. I mean, I think there's a lot of different buckets you can look at, and really we won't know until John Gilbert sits down with these candidates, and you just got to trust John Gilbert and the administration to make the right call, because a lot of it is just about fit vision, how you handle NIL, what your staff going to look like, and we can mention all these names, but we don't really know what all the pieces are going to look like until John Gilbert has those in-depth conversations with the candidates. What do you think about, there's been talk about Skip Holtz from some donors, from what I've heard. I don't know how real this is, Kevin, but would you be for or against the return of Skip Holtz if that was a possibility?
Oh, I wouldn't say against. He wouldn't be my first choice. I just think you kind of need to go and start anew instead of going with a guy who was here before and left the program for greener pastures and now circles back around. And I wouldn't necessarily be against it because he won here. I mean, he won 2 conference championships. The one thing I would say is Pirate fans probably don't remember the offense when Coach Holtz was here. It was not this high-powered, spread them out, throw it around everywhere offense. It was a little bit more calm. It was more defense that we won games with, and the defenses were great. I mean, I can still remember that bowl game or conference championship game against Tulsa where we picked off like 5 passes, and the defense was just completely shutting down an offense that had been scoring on everybody all year long. That's what a Skip Holtz team looks like. And that's not this day and age of football anymore. This day and age of football is offensive minded, and people want to see points, people want to see scoring and different things. So it'd be interesting to see what type of team he would field here. I'm not necessarily against it, but no, he wouldn't be one of my first couple choices.
And the timing of all this is so critical too. Robert on YouTube points out, when would Ledford be able to leave Atlanta with the NFL season ongoing? And then you've got, let's say you hire Joe Sloan and Garrett Riley. They're probably going to be coordinating playoff teams, which goes well into December. And you really need a coach in place by early December. The portal opens right after the 1st. So, Kevin, I mean, all these things have to be taken into consideration for John Gilbert. It's just such a important process, which is why I like making the move now. It at least gives you some time to evaluate and go through some things. So, I don't know, just your thoughts on the timing of it, too. Like, you need a coach in place sooner than later.
Yeah, I think I remember in recent history we had Dave Hart come in and be kind of a consultant as we were looking for things to happen. I think there's ways around it. You bring in a coaching consultant that can maybe work with Team Boneyard, put some feelers out there for recruiting. You have somebody in place that can help these coaches that may not be done with their teams yet, because everybody's in the same boat, right? Anybody that's hiring a new head coach is probably going to get a retread somewhere, a coach that's currently coaching somewhere else, and they're going to be missing that same recruiting window. So it won't be any different from anybody else trying to fill the position. But I think there's ways around it. I think that, if you hire Dwayne Ledford or somebody, he could probably start working on some of those things before he stepped foot in Greenville in terms of, whatever his contract would allow him to do before being in Greenville. But there's probably some ways to work around, maybe getting some recruiting done or hiring some coaches, hiring a staff while you're still in Atlanta or what have you. So I don't know how all that works, but our situation won't be any different than any other team that's looking for a head coach. So I wouldn't necessarily be looking for somebody who's not with a program right now just because of that. I think you have to find somebody that's actively coaching and that's in the mix if you want to get somebody that's used to today's day and age of NIL and all that good stuff.
Final thing with Kevin Monroe, we always have our Marcus Monroe updates. He's class of 2026 recruit. You were telling me Duke, Illinois, Bethune-Cookman are interested in Marcus Monroe. Also, we got a question on YouTube, Kevin. Interested to hear the answer to this. Bobby wants to know, who wins in a foot race, Kevin Monroe or Marcus Monroe?
Well, today I hope Marcus Monroe, considering I'm 47 years old. But if you're asking about both of us in our primes, then I'm beating him in a foot race. But he's 4 inches taller than me and has hands better than I ever thought about having hands. So he's got his pluses to minuses as well. But the last week has really picked up in recruiting. You mentioned some, but literally just in the last week, Duke, Maryland, Illinois, and NC State have all reached out to him, via Twitter. So things are starting to move. He's playing well, and I think his stats, he's over 700 yards receiving, 45 catches, 9 touchdowns. It all speaks for itself, and so teams are starting to notice him, and we'll see how it goes. He's got another regular season game left, and hopefully an opportunity in the playoffs coming up, and I'm just excited for him. I went through this as a high schooler myself, and I know what it's like, and I'm hoping for even bigger and better things for him.
Well, awesome, Kevin. We appreciate the updates on Marcus and also the insight from you each and every week, man. We'll connect again next Wednesday, but we appreciate it as always.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, Igo.
That is Kevin Monroe color analyst on the ECU Sports Network. Always great insights, and we'll continue to hear from Kevin throughout the remainder of the season and beyond. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We'll continue on. We'll have Brady Thomas, Hoist the Colors intern/contributor. He'll make his debut. We'll tell you why we're going to call him Mr. Bandwagon. He's a fan of some bandwagon teams. We'll tell you about that and more. This is Hoist the Colors.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Hey Glenn, let's talk about a new program at Greenville Nissan.
Sure, sometimes bad things happen to good people, like credit hiccups.
Greenville Nissan just rolled out credit forgiveness.
If you've been making consistent car payments and you're tired of the high interest rates, this program is for you.
Get into a new Nissan with a manageable payment and keep that cash in the bank.
Come visit us at Greenville Nissan and drive your Nissan home today.
Hurry, this program ends September 3rd. Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's cut in color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
There, big Pirates. Back to Hoist the Colors with Steve and I go. How good is this on 94.3 The Game?
Welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here on this Wednesday, October 23rd edition of the show. Philip Hilkin producing. We just talked to Kevin Monroe. We're going to introduce a new guest on the show. He's been with us, hoistthecolors.net. You've been reading his tweets live from press conferences. He's Brady Thomas. Brady, welcome in.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Excited to make the debut.
Yeah, first ever debut. You're following Chance. We've gotten Chance up here. And, look, I mean, he's all about sports betting. So, I mean, we may get into that at some point with you. But first off, let's learn a little bit more about your background. We'll get your take on the coach search. Again, if people have questions, comments, etc., we'll answer that. So, you're from the Charlotte area.
Yes, sir. And born and raised in Oklahoma. Only lived there for 3 years. I don't know about raised, but born.
So what led you to East Carolina?
My brother actually went here. We've lived here for about 17 years, so basically in Charlotte my whole life. My brother went here, and I was like, it's kind of a no-doubter. And I was like, wasn't really interested in going out of state, so it's a perfect fit.
How painful was the Charlotte game a few weeks ago for you? As a Charlotte guy.
Standing on the sidelines for 3.5 hours in the 90-degree heat.
Getting sunburnt.
Yeah, and on the turf was not ideal. but the outcome was also not ideal. So it was a rough one. Had some texts after the game from a few buddies that go there.
Brutal.
Was not happy.
What's this whole Hoist the Colors experience been like for you, man? I mean, you're doing your first year of like sports writing, sports reporting. You want to get into the business. Now we got a coach being fired in the middle of the season, something I've never dealt with. So what's it been like from your perspective?
Yep. Well, started off hot. Started off my working record hot. 3-0.
3-0 covering games.
Yep.
Rare territory.
2 road wins or 1 road win. I
Yeah,
think I had
ODU.
run. Yeah, ODU had the first road win, second game of the year. It was a blast covering that game. Started off hot. We had media day to start off the season. It was so much fun, and we've hit a bit of a halt in the season, but I'm excited what Coach Harrell can do. I think he 100% should be a real candidate for the job, especially if they come out hot and win these few games to start the year. I think a lot of people are not realizing what he's capable of here at ECU.
Yeah, I mean, the on-field performance will tell a lot. Look, you've been at the pressers the last 2 days. What have you made? We talked about this earlier with Philip. What did you make of Coach Harrell? Like, he was basically the same guy that he's been his coordinator, but I don't know. Like, I feel like in that environment, he could have been kind of overwhelmed, but he was not. He seemed to just be himself.
Yeah, I actually went to practice early yesterday morning, and he had fist bumped all of the media that was there and talked to us and said, please make this about the seniors, which is trying to make it'd be their 3rd bowl game.
Yeah.
So that is a big preface that Blake Harrell has tried to make around this team in the past 72 hours, in the past few days, which is great. I think Coach Harrell will do fine. And at the pressers, he was himself talking to the most down-to-earth man that I've met here at ECU, and he's going to do well. And then JDB today, I feel like that's the most intensity that he's talked to us with. I think he's fired
I feel like
up.
he has been a little more reserved until today.
Yeah. I think he's fired up to have Blake Harrell in that position, and I'm excited how they work together. I am very interested to see how Harrell will coach the offense or the head coaching roles mixed with the defense. And because, like you said earlier, he hasn't seen too many offensive plays, especially looking over film back in the booth.
ECU and Temple. So let's do this. Let's do a quick vibe check on this game. We usually do this middle of the week, and I mean, we've barely even been able to talk about it just due to the circumstances of the week that was. So East Carolina, first off, are we surprised that the Pirates are still a 7-point favorite? I'm looking now. FanDuel's got it down to 6.5, but 63% of the money's coming in on the Pirates, 37% on ECU, or on Temple, excuse me. 52% of the bets coming in on ECU, so a lot of big money bets on ECU. Are you surprised at the number, Brady?
Not really, especially being homecoming week.
Is
And
Temple just that bad?
I think they might be just that bad. I actually have a buddy who goes there, and he actually went to I believe they played Tulsa last week. He went to the game.
Your
and
hometown team.
Yeah. He went to the game and said they obviously won, but he said it was very sloppy. So I can expect ECU to come out and maybe not steamroll, but I'm going to go with a spread cover.
What do you got, Philip? What do you think about this game, if anything?
You know, it's so tough coming off one of these situations. You never know how to feel. But I tell you, I called Joe after that press conference yesterday, and I was like, man, Blake's got me pumped up. I don't know what it is. I'm feeling good. You know, he talked about how he thinks his team can still make a bowl game, and you know what? I'm with him. We're winning the next 3 at least. I feel good. I really do. I think these young men are going to rally behind Blake. Blake's a leader, and it's going to show on Saturday.
Here's one thing we haven't really talked about. Let's say ECU does make a bowl. You know, I've heard a lot of people say if Blake Harrell makes a bowl and wins a bowl, he should get the job. Here's the problem with that. You cannot wait that long to make a decision. You have got to get a coach in place by early December at the latest. And so most of the bowl games, correct me if I'm wrong, Philip, like mid-December to late December, right? Like,
yeah, they don't even start till I think conference championship games are like the 3rd.
Yeah.
No, they're the 9th and the 10th or something.
So, I mean, you're probably not going to get a bowl game till, you know, the 20th or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the 18th or something. It's probably the first game. I can look it up. But
so I don't think that's a possibility. Like, the decision had to be made before then. Let's say they make a bowl, but it's like 6-6, and somebody else gets the job. I guess at that point, it turns into Blake and the staff coach the team, and then they just ride off into the sunset, win or lose. So, I mean, that would have to be the scenario, right?
Yeah, so 14th, you want me to break? By the way, 14th is the first bowl game.
14th.
Brady, do you want to answer the question or do you want me to?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said earlier, I think Harrell is a great candidate, but obviously the decision is going to have to be made
because the
before
portal
that
opens the 9th officially.
Yeah, Harrell definitely, I think he should have a real shot at the job, especially if he goes on to beat Temple here, FAU on the Thursday night game, and then at Tulsa. At Tulsa is, other than a couple other games, will be one of our biggest challenges just from the aspect it's on the road and Harrell getting a first road win. I'm not expecting them to beat North Texas or Navy to end the season, but I think if he does win those 3, he needs to be a legit candidate for the job.
I think if you win 3 in a row, then we're having a real conversation.
Yeah.
Going into that North Texas game, for sure. Cameron says, hypothetical, if ECU makes a bowl and it is somehow against State or UNC, but we already have a coach in place that is not Blake, are players going to opt out of the bowl game? I would think it just depends on every individual player's circumstances. Like if you're Deontay Johnson, Elijah Morris, there's no reason to opt out. You know, if you're Savone Revel, obviously he's not playing, and he was playing, then yeah, you would probably opt out. But I don't see too many NFL players on this roster, so I don't see a ton of
Well,
opt-outs.
the guys who hit the portal will have already hit the portal.
Yeah, like those guys.
And then the guys who are on the team will probably be on the team and they'll play.
We saw that even when ECU made the Birmingham Bowl. Like Avery Jones and some of those guys entered the portal before the game was playing. Those are significant players. So, I mean, that's just going to happen across the board. Robert says he's at a 6.5, I guess, on the 1 to 10 feeling about this game. Zach says interim coach bump. So, yeah, I mean, I think if you win Saturday, it kind of feels crazy to say, but there's like positive momentum with the program right now. I think that positive continues.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Philip right when I got here, and I was saying Hoist the Colors Twitter from this morning, the live tweets that I had for the press conference actually got a lot of engagement.
Yeah.
And
it hasn't been that way in recent press conferences.
Yeah. I'm used to seeing 2-3 likes on each post, but there's 20-30 likes on each post. I think the Pirates fan base are fired up to see a change, and I just hope that Blake Harrell can ball out. And I think the seniors, this is going to mean a lot for them if they can win a bowl game. This is one of the best senior classes and most dedicated that we've had in a long time.
Really hope they can get that done. That would be huge for those guys and the program. All right, let's take our final break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. We'll get into Brady and why he's a bandwagon fan. Not really. I just like calling it that. But we'll tell you why on the other side. This is Hoist the Colors.
We're down to the final days of our summer sales event at Greenville Toyota.
Lease new RAV4s, $319 a month. Test drive the redesigned 2025 Camry, all with our advantage.
It's your last chance to save at Greenville Toyota.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Hey, on the mountain we've got a saying. Get off your...
Show off.
Mountain Dew.
Summer is here, and Sawyer's Fun Park is having a toddler summer special. From 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday, Sawyer's has a $10 2-hour unlimited pass for ages 2 to 4. That's one toddler and one parent for just $10 every weekday morning. Sawyer's Fun Park summer hours are Monday through Thursday from 10 to 8, Fridays and Saturdays from 10 to 9, and Sundays from 12 to 8. Book your tickets online at SawyersFunPark.com and beat the heat this summer at Sawyers Fun Park.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves tiebreakers.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Hurry, the summer savings event is coming to an end. Don't miss your chance.
Enjoy your summer in a new Corolla for just $219 a month, or a Highlander for only $399 a month. Got a trade? Get cash for it, or trade for a new Toyota.
Back to Hoist the Colors with Steve and Igo.
Drink up me, Aussie Joe Ho.
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here. 94.3 The Game, Wednesday, October 23rd. We were talking about the possibility of Blake Harrell becoming head coach. Tony Hicks says, let's see if we can win the next two games, go from there. I agree. Justice says, if the team steamrolls the next three games, then Blake certainly becomes a serious candidate. But if we are narrowly beating bad teams and that again get blown out by North Texas, there's no way. Also, I think Blake Harrell's a great coach, but his defense looked like garbage the last few weeks, starting in the second half of Liberty. So, yeah, I mean, the defense has not been great. I think losing Savone and Zakai Barker not being 100% has affected that. But still, it's a wait-and-see situation. I do think he's got to win games to become a serious candidate, but I think with his personality, he can become a serious candidate quickly is all we're saying. All right, Brady Thomas is in studio with us. Hoist the Colors, intern/contributor. We're going to try to work him into the show more. We still got to get James Giglio, son of Joe Giglio, on the show. His Yankees are in the World Series, so I don't know if I can tolerate that on the air. Philip Pilkington is producing. Speaking of bandwagon fans, you're a Kentucky basketball fan and you're a Cowboys fan, so explain yourself.
Yeah, okay. Well, Kentucky basketball, growing up an Oklahoma State fan, never had anything to look forward to.
I don't think that's a bandwagon. Like, Oklahoma State seems kind of...
No, my dad went there.
Yeah.
My dad, two uncles went to Oklahoma State.
And they're bad this year.
Yes, very bad. Worst Mike Gundy team since he came. So...
Since he was a man and he was 40.
Yep.
How old is Mike Gundy now? Gosh, that was a long time ago.
How many ever years older than 40 60? He was when he made the statement that he was 40?
Mike Gundy is 57 years old.
Almost 60, yeah. But, yeah, so Oklahoma State fan, that's pretty much my dad grew up Oklahoma State fan, whatever. And then Oklahoma State basketball, never was a big fan, never watched really. Brad Underwood got us in trouble, Marcus Smart days. And so we had
Javon Small.
No comment. But Kentucky basketball, my dad's buddy was a big fan. He had went there, whatever. I think he had played baseball, and we just started hanging out, and we just kind of watched the games together always. So, and actually the first season I liked him, it was the 38-1 team. So, but never seen anything like it. I've never seen any of my teams win a national championship, World Series, Super Bowl, anything. So,
just a consistent loser.
Yeah, the bandwagon term is so slowly dropping off throughout my friend group.
It's like, that's the thing, is it sounds bandwagonish.
Yeah.
Cowboys, the Cowboys are like the bandwagon team, but like they've stunk for a long time, and now they've been good, but like you just know once they get in the playoffs they're going to choke.
Well, hey, here's the thing. I would defend him in this. When you're from Oklahoma, the closest NFL city to you is Dallas.
Yep.
It's not like he's from like one of those people who's like, I'm from New Jersey, but I like the Cowboys. Even though there's 17 teams within like 100 miles of me.
Yeah, my dad grew up a huge Cowboys fan. Then there's not a single family member in my close family that's not a Cowboys fan. So that's our Sunday ritual, is sitting around watching the Cowboys lose every game.
Bobby wants to know, do you get your NFL gear from Walmart?
Well, if he can show me the clearance section at Walmart that sells Cowboys gear, I'll gladly go buy something.
There you go. Well, hey, Dallas is pretty bad this year too. I don't know what's going on there. What's the deal with Kentucky basketball? In about 30 seconds post John Calipari, you think they're going to get it done?
Yep, we're getting it done this year. Mark Pope, new era. Couldn't be more excited. They play Kentucky Wesleyan tonight in an exhibition game. I will not leave the front of my television for a good 2 hours. I think they get it done. I'm way more excited than Calipari I was ever in the Calipari era. Sorry.
Well, we'll see. What do you think about Mike Schwartz? Pirates going to win this year?
He was very, very confident. Hanging the hat on defense was said many times, so I expect them to come out and play some big defense. We got a home opener in a little less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. Soon enough, you will make your Minges Coliseum debut. Brady, this has been fun, man.
Yes, sir.
Congrats on your on-air debut. I don't think you blew it too bad. I think you did pretty good.
Nope. Ready to get back on.
There you go. We'll get you back on. We'll have to do a day when things slow down where we get the whole crew on.
He definitely didn't blow it. Kaysen came on and said he was an NC State fan. Brady came on and said he was a Kentucky fan. Dude.
Yeah.
Brady's
You're
winning.
starting ahead of Kaysen, so.
Can't do much worse than that, Kaysen.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We'll get you back on. We do need to talk some basketball in the coming days. We'll try to fit that in as well. We need a 2-hour show this time of year. Until then, 12 noon tomorrow, we'll see you with Mark Yellock and more. We'll talk to you then.
Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo. Tune in weekdays at noon for all things ECU sports. Get a recap of the show at 943thegame.com, on Twitter, Facebook, or anywhere you get your podcasts. We're back tomorrow with